Christmas, 1962. 3 rail wagons of potash fertilizer cross the border from West Germany into East Germany. That's it, just fertilizer. But walking in the opposite direction, in the cold, are 20 political prisoners and 20 children. The East German government just traded its own citizens for agricultural supplies. This was not a one-time arrangement. It was the opening transaction of a 27-year program that would quietly sell 33,755 people to West Germany for a total of 3.5 billion Deutschmarks in cash and commodities. One of the most repressive states in Cold War history had built a side business, exporting human beings. But here is what makes this genuinely strange. The Berlin Wall, which the GDR constructed specifically to stop people from leaving, became the very mechanism that made those people worth selling. You cannot understand the prisoner trade without understanding the wall. You cannot understand the wall without understanding why 2.7 million people tried to leave in the first place. This is a story about a government that built a machine to solve an economic crisis, then became dependent on the machine operating in exactly the way it was built to prevent.
To understand what the Berlin Wall actually was, you need to go back to 1949. Germany has just been divided. The western half, the FRG, is being rebuilt with American Marshall Plan capital. The eastern half, the GDR, is operating as a Soviet satellite state. The GDR is not economically weak at this point. It is the most industrialized economy in the Eastern Bloc. But there is a structural flaw built into its founding. The most skilled workers in East Germany, doctors, engineers, professors, technicians, are looking across the border at a West Germany where wages are substantially higher, consumer goods exist, and professional mobility is real. And in 1949, there is nothing physically stopping them from going there.
Berlin sits deep inside East German territory, but West Berlin is a Western enclave, a pocket of the FRG inside the GDR. And the border between East Berlin and West Berlin is, for the first 12 years, essentially open. You can walk across, take the subway, ride the S-Bahn, cross a street. So they do. Between 1949 and 1961, roughly 2.7 million people leave East Germany through Berlin. That is 15% of the entire country's population in 12 years. But the raw number undersells the damage. 50% of those who fled were under 25. The majority were white-collar professionals. In those 12 years, East Germany loses approximately 1,100 doctors, 3,500 engineers, 600 university professors, and 18,000 skilled technicians.
The GDR calculated the total economic damage at between $7 and $9 billion. Walter Ulbricht, the GDR's head of state, eventually demanded $17 billion in reparations from West Germany, arguing that the West was systematically harvesting workers that the East had paid to educate. He was not wrong about the mechanics. The GDR invests heavily in professional training. The graduate looks at the wage differential and makes a rational calculation. West Germany receives a fully trained professional at zero cost. The GDR absorbs the full investment and recovers nothing. By 1961, the GDR's working-age population has fallen to 61% of total population, compared to 70.5% before the war. The labor market is in structural collapse. The 5-year economic plans are being revised downward. The economy is running on borrowed time. Something has to close the border. On August 13, 1961, East German soldiers begin unrolling barbed wire across Berlin. Within days, it hardens into concrete. Within years, it becomes something far more engineered than a wall. The Berlin Wall, in its final form, the Grenzmauer 75, completed through the 1970s, is not a wall in any useful sense. It is a system
a sequence of engineered delays designed around one number: average guard response time.
That time was approximately 90 seconds. Every component of the death strip was calibrated to make crossing take longer than 90 seconds. Here is what that looks like in practice. The outermost layer is the signal fence, the contact zone. It sits 500 to 1,000 meters inland from the actual border. It is electrified at 1,000 to 2,000 volts and connected to piezoelectric sensors that detect vibration above 10 hertz. Touch it, and within 50 milliseconds, an alarm triggers. This fence runs 1,185 kilometers along the inner German border. Its only function is to buy time. Move past the signal fence, and you enter the protection strip, then the control strip, the death strip. 60 meters wide, raked flat, sand on the surface. Every footprint shows. Below the sand is the spargle beat, a buried mesh of steel pins spaced every 5 to 10 centimeters. You cannot dig through it without triggering a seismic sensor. Past that, vehicle ditches, V-shaped cuts in the earth, 0.8 meters deep, lined with concrete. Czech hedgehogs, welded steel rail crosses weighing 500 kilograms, positioned at 1 to 2 meter intervals. A standard East German Trabant is 1.4 meters wide. The hedgehog spacing is designed to match. A vehicle attempting to ram through either tips into the ditch or loses its axle. Then the patrol road. 900 kilometers of precast concrete blocks, 2.5 meters wide, swept by guard vehicles 3 to 4 times per day. 529 watchtowers, spaced 150 to 200 meters apart. Each one stands 11 meters high and carries a 1,000-watt searchlight covering 150 meters in every direction. The towers overlap. There are no blind spots. 71.5 kilometers of dog runs operate continuously, with 2,500 watchdogs permanently tethered to cables. And finally, the Grenzmauer 75 itself, 3.6 meters high, 1.2 meters wide, 2.7 tons per section, with a smooth asbestos concrete pipe along the top, 40 centimeters in diameter. No grip, no edge. The circumference is too wide for a standard grappling hook to seat. It was not designed to be imposing. It was designed to be a specific number of seconds. The total crossing time through all layers ran between 2.75 and 5.5 minutes. Guard response time was 1.5 to 3 minutes. The math was built to kill people. Not through cruelty, through engineering. A physical barrier only works if the people guarding it actually guard it. And this is where the GDR ran into a second structural problem. The border guards were East Germans. Some of them sympathized with the people trying to cross. Some of them wanted to cross themselves. So the GDR built an incentive architecture around them. For every successful escape prevention, a guard received 100 to 200 Deutschmarks, 7 to 14 extra vacation days per year for exemplary service, priority housing allocation for his family, accelerated promotion, his children's university admission placed on a fast track. But the negative incentives were the structural core. A guard who allowed a successful escape faced 5 to 20 years in prison for dereliction. A guard who defected would see his spouse lose their job, his parents placed under Stasi surveillance, his children barred from higher education for the remainder of the GDR's existence. And then the pairing system, which removed the possibility of coordination entirely. Guards were assigned in pairs of strangers, 2 men who had never met, sent to the same post, with no way to assess whether the other was loyal, whether the other would report them, whether the other would cooperate or defect. Now here is where the system begins to turn on itself. The wall works. After August 13th, 1961, the population hemorrhage stops almost immediately. In 1960, 199,000 people fled. In the months after the wall, that number collapses.
The labor market stabilizes, GDP growth recovers. The crisis the GDR built the wall to solve is solved. But the wall has generated a new problem. The GDR now holds a growing population of political prisoners, people who attempted to cross, people who submitted immigration applications, people the Stasi suspects of ideological disloyalty. By 1984, the Stasi is arresting over 1,500 people per year, specifically for the act of applying for an exit visa. West Germany knows these people exist. West Germany wants them out. West Germany has hard currency, and the GDR is in permanent hard currency crisis. This is the structural opening that produces the Häftling-Freikauf, the prisoner redemption program. Not a black market, not a secret, an official, documented government-to-government transaction operating continuously from 1962 to 1989. The mechanics are specific. A West German lawyer named Wolfgang Vogel functions as intermediary. West Germany pays through Protestant church networks. East Germany transfers prisoners. Prices are calibrated by profession and social value. A doctor fetches 100,000 to 150,000 Deutschmarks by the late 1980s. An engineer, 100,000 to 130,000 DM. A blue-collar worker, 50,000 to 65,000 DM. The average payment per prisoner rises from 40,000 DM in 1962 to 100,000 DM by 1989. Over the full program, 33,755 people are ransomed for 3.5 billion Deutschmarks in total payments. 77% of those payments were converted directly into hard foreign currency and applied to the GDR's Western bank debt. The wall, built to stop the outflow of human capital, had become the engine of a state-run human export business. The incentive loop does not end there. West Germany operated with a fundamental information disadvantage. It could verify prisoner names. It could not verify the actual charges or the legitimacy of convictions. All it had was a list of people and a price. The Stasi recognized this asymmetry almost immediately. In the 1960s, somewhere between 20 and 30% of the people being ransomed were individuals the Stasi had arrested specifically for the purpose of generating a ransom transaction. No genuine political offense. Detained until West Germany paid, then released westward, which was what the citizen wanted anyway. The state collected 40,000 Deutschmarks in the process. By 1984, this had become standard operating procedure. A citizen submits an emigration application. This is treated as an arrestable act. The Stasi arrests them, holds them as a political prisoner. West Germany pays 100,000 D-Mark for their release, and the citizen ends up in the West as intended. The GDR profits from every step of a process it was supposedly trying to prevent. The containment machine had become a production machine. The GDR built the wall to stop losing human capital. Then it discovered that trapped human capital had a market price. Then it began generating more prisoners, specifically to meet that market. There is one more dimension of this that almost never gets discussed, and it is the one that makes the whole system feel most surreal. When the wall went up, it cut straight through Berlin's underground transit network. Several West Berlin subway and S-Bahn lines ran through tunnels that passed under East Berlin. Pulling those lines entirely would have paralyzed West Berlin's transit system, so an arrangement was reached. West Berlin trains would continue to pass through East Berlin stations at 15 to 20 kilometers per hour, without stopping, in total darkness. The stations themselves, Nordbahnhof, Potsdamer Platz, and several others, were sealed from the surface. Platform entrances bricked over with reinforced concrete. Stairways filled with 20-centimeter concrete slabs. All station signage removed. Guard bunkers built into platform service booths. The third rail kept electrically live at 750 volts. Steel grates installed across every track entrance. 3-strand barbed wire run along every platform edge. West Berlin passengers riding through could see these stations through the train windows as the car passed through. Empty platforms, complete darkness, the silhouette of a guard in a booth. They called them Geisterbahnhofe, ghost stations.
For 28 years, trains passed through stations that by East German law and architecture did not exist. West Berlin drivers were prohibited by contract from stopping on East German soil under any non-emergency circumstance. An emergency brake triggered immediate arrest by East German police. The drivers passed through at 15 kilometers per hour every single day, staring forward. This is what the Berlin Wall looked like from underground. Not a wall, a network of sealed voids. Functional infrastructure, operating perfectly, passing through territory it was not permitted to acknowledge.
The Berlin Wall fell on November 9, 1989. Not because it was physically breached, not because of a military operation, because a GDR spokesman named Günter Schabowski misread a press release at a live press conference and announced that new travel regulations would take effect immediately and without delay. He had not been briefed that the regulations were not supposed to go into effect until the following morning. Crowds gathered at the checkpoints. Guards had received no orders. The shift commander at Bornholmer Strasse, a man named Harald Jaeger, made a unilateral decision and opened the gate. The 155-kilometer perimeter, the 180,000 concrete sections, the 529 watchtowers, the 2,500 dogs, the 12,000 guards, the 28-year system came down because one man misread a press release and another man decided not to wait for clarification.
Germany spent approximately 1 to 2 billion West German marks demolishing what had cost 16 to 20 billion East German marks to build. Here is what should stay with you. By every technical standard, the Berlin Wall was a success. It solved the problem it was designed to solve. The labor market stabilized, the economy recovered. The system ran for 28 years without being physically overcome. And in solving that problem, it constructed a second economy built entirely on human captivity. By its final decade, the GDR was not arresting people to punish them. It was arresting people to generate foreign currency. The wall had turned the state's own population into its most reliable tradable asset.
Every element of this system was internally rational. The engineers optimized the crossing delays correctly. The economists priced the prisoner transactions accurately. The game theorists designed the guard pairing correctly. The Stasi identified the arbitrage and exploited it correctly. No individual component was irrational. No individual actor was making an error. The system itself was the problem. This is what a fully optimized repressive apparatus actually looks like. Not chaos, not gratuitous cruelty. A clean, functional, self-reinforcing machine in which every participant makes the most logical choice available to them, and the aggregate outcome is something monstrous. The Berlin Wall was not the deadliest border in modern history because it was poorly designed. It was deadly because it worked exactly as intended.